Let's look at fantasy trades, buy lows, sell highs, players rolling, players struggling, all that. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd. If you just go and have a quick look under your Christmas tree, you'll see there's a nice little gift voucher there from Sanity. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com and sign up for a newsletter, the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. Go and do that. And if you want to give me a Christmas present this year, it is Christmas Day here in Australia, well, you can just shut the... No, what you can do is you can hit the thumb up on this video and you can leave a comment. And that comment can be telling me to shut the... If you want, that's okay. Just leave something. Leave something. We're here to talk buy lows and sell highs. But, you know, in all seriousness, Merry Christmas if you do celebrate it, because that's the day that I'm recording this, on the 25th of December. So if you are celebrating Christmas, hope you have a good one. And if you're not, hope you have a good day anyway. Buy lows, sell highs. Do you want me to talk about it? Do we talk about what we mean by these? Does it mean that if you've got a buy low player on your team that you need to panic? No. It means they're probably going to improve. Maybe not, but probably. If you have a sell high player on your team, what does it mean? You can trade them away if you want, but you don't have to. None of this, and nearly anything in fantasy basketball, except dropping Rui Hachimura, none of it is mandatory. None of it is. It's all like, here's an idea, consider it. Does it work for you? That's what I might lean to do, but I also might not in certain situations. These are all ideas and thoughts, not musts and pushes. Wish that rhymed. That would have been better. But when we talk about a sell high, you do not have to get rid of that player. You do not. If the right deal comes along, my idea on that player is they probably can't maintain this level. But if you just want to ride it out while they are, go for it. But if you get something back good, yeah. How you can win in fantasy is it's accumulation of value. It's strongly crafted teams that make sense, but it's accumulation of value. Getting a guy who ends up being a top 30 player at pick 100 is an accumulation of value. Trading away a guy who's rolling at top 30, getting another top 30 player back, and then that guy turns out to be a top 100 player the rest of the season, that's accumulation of value. Taking the guy you drafted at pick 100, he has a run at top 20, you sell him for a top 40 player, he drops off to be 150th best player, that's accumulation of value. That's how you can win. There are ways around that, like strongly crafted punt teams in category leagues can mitigate loss, injuries, volume, all that sort of stuff. It is possible, but the best way to do it is accumulation of value. And how you value players is up to you, but it's about accumulation of value. Let's have a look at how we did 2 weeks ago. These weeks are a little bit iffier, just again because we're talking about weeks with slightly smaller volume. I use 2-week reporting periods here, so instead of like a 7 to 8 week volume of games, we're talking 5 to 6 or 4 because of the NBA Cup. That's okay. That's how we're judging it. 2 weeks ago on the Buy Low show, we had Steph Curry as a buy low, and he hasn't improved. He's actually gotten marginally worse. Now, the difference between, for my sake, this is wrong, right? I said he was 37th, and then in the 2 weeks since, he's 44th. That's wrong. The difference between 37 and 44 is so marginal, he's basically stayed the same. I don't think he's going to be a first-round guy, but I do think there is improvement there in Steph. Ivica Zubac was 115th, and we talked about him saying, well, we don't think this is going to hold, and now he's swung completely the other way. He's 18th since we did that show, including a monster 2020 game yesterday. So, if there was any way to do a sell high on Ivica Zubac, you do that now. And that's the share trading idea of fantasy basketball. If you're able to buy Ivica Zubac for a top 75 player, he's a top 20 player at the moment, and then you flip him out for a top 40 guy, well, that's great, isn't it? But that's all got to come together at the right time. Pascal Siakam was 106th. He's 48th since then. Bradley Beal was 136th. He's 73rd since then. And Christian James McCullum was 139th, and he's 80th since then. So all of those are gigantic W's. The Steph one, not. Didn't improve, stayed about the same. That's not great, but that's okay. Again, with all these ones, some of it is just highlighting that if you've got these players and you've got Siakam on your team, or you had Beal on your team, you go, what is going on with this guy? All right, it's about highlighting some things that I look at and go, that almost has to improve, yeah? So don't be so down in the dumps on these players. And that worked out relatively well for that week 8 period. On the other side of it, what about the sell high guys? The guys that I thought were rolling too high and were going to fall away. Well, the first one was Rowan Barrett, and he hasn't. Barrett was 35th. He is 25th since then. That's in category leagues. Of course, I use a weighted -1 per game ranking for category leagues. I believe it better reflects the most popular form of category leagues, which is head-to-head. No one's going to sit here and tell me that Giannis is the 40th best player or that Cade's like 60th because it's blatantly false. So that is how I use those numbers. So Barrett, cooking. Unbelievable stuff. I will still maintain that is a massive sell high. I was higher on Barrett than most this season, and in the past I have not been, but it's all about context and improvements, and he did. But this is too high. Storm and Norman Powell stayed the same, 39th to 36th. That is a marginal improvement. It's nothing, though. That's like half of a steal or something that bumps you 3 positions. Who cares? But he didn't drop off. I do believe there is going to be a drop, but he is just shooting at unbelievable levels, and he's doing it at a long period of time. And I'm not super confident in how much Kawhi plays this season, but I still don't think Norm stays this way, but who cares? He's been awesome. Ayo Dosunmu was 56th. He's 114th since then. Everyone knows my thoughts on Dosunmu. He probably does need 2 guys out to be a very rock-solid 12-team league player. Because, again, we play the 240 game on a healthy Bulls team. He doesn't get 33 a night. He just doesn't. But that's okay because that doesn't mean those guys are always going to be there. But he did drop off. I thought he would. There was stuff in what he was doing which wasn't going to hold. It didn't hold. He's still being useful, but it didn't hold at that level. Jalen Green was 50th. He's 158th since then. This has been just an absolute roller coaster with Jalen Green all season. And he's one of the guys that if you buy and sell at the right time, you could just be making profit over profit. Hand over fist, as they say, which is one of the dumbest phrases I've ever heard. I don't really know what it means. Hand over... What does that mean? Who cares? And then DeAndre Hunter didn't really budge. I still think that a lot of what Hunter is doing, the shooting is ridiculous. It probably doesn't hold at that level, but it did. 79th he was. I said he was going to drop off. Technically, he did. If I'm going to say technically I lost on Norman Powell, I technically won on DeAndre Hunter. He's dropped down 4 spots, but that's the same. I still think that Hunter is going to move down from here. I feel confident about that. He still remains a very empty player who's getting 30 minutes a night only, but just shooting out of his brain. But he's doing it. He keeps doing it, and that's great if you've got him. I wouldn't be confident in it continuing, but it has, so there you go. We're going to come back with 5 buy lows and 5 sell highs based on the last 2 weeks of action as well. But today's episode, in the interim, well, not in the interim, today's episode just the whole way through is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means you bring people together, and a way to do that is going to live events and doing that with family and friends. It can be a great experience, but also can be the perfect gift. Game Time has that new feature called the Game Time Picks. It's not the Game Time Picks, it's just Game Time Picks. And that makes getting tickets for live events even easier, filtering out the fluff, showing you only the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. You've got the all-in pricing feature as well, which you can toggle on in the app that shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. The panoramic views from your seat in the app as well so that you know exactly what you're going to be looking at when you go to these games. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create the account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rocket Money. Yes, Rocket Money, it can help you find subscriptions that you did not even know that you had, or ones that you've been paying for twice and didn't realize. That's happened in the past to many of us, including me. I think I've actually, you know what? I've got one at the moment. I'm not going to say which one it is, but there's one at the moment that I know I've got 2 subscriptions to. I've just got to go in and actually, now that I think about it, 2 different sites. And Rocket Money will probably find more of those. Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. It is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. And Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and they've saved over $500 million in cancelled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. The best feature on there, I think, is the subscription tracker, just to see what you've got and know when you can cancel and what you can cancel and what you don't need and what you're not using anymore. All of their goals feature is awesome as well, to be able to automatically set aside money for the future. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And now, legends, that will bring us into talking about the first buy low of the day. We're going into Oklahoma City, in fact. Because the Bronco, Jalen Williams, who about 3 weeks ago was on the sell high list, and yes, guys, it is possible to have a sell high become a buy low. That's how dynamic ranking and valuations work, because Williams was rolling as the 5th best player for a period of time, which never made any real sense that he could stick at that level. It also doesn't make sense that he's the 112th ranked player, which is what he is over the last 2 weeks, averaging only 32 fantasy points. He's been great all season. I think the reality for him is in the 20s to 30s, around that zone. Maybe he's a top 20 player. Maybe he's the 30th best player. I don't know. But what is really down for him at the moment is everything, basically. At the moment, we're seeing the Bronco not really hitting threes. You can see there he's only hitting 1.3 threes per game over the last 2 weeks of action. Very clearly not enough. He's also, for a guy that has had periods of time where he's a 2 steals per game player, he's not getting any of those either. I reckon it has hurt him that Isaiah Hartenstein is back and he is not playing as much at center. Well, he's not playing at center at all. And Pig Williams is also there, and the Oklahoma City Mudflap, Kenrich Williams is there. All those guys are there now. So we're just not seeing the same stuff out of Jalen Williams. And his steal numbers for the year are at 1.8 and his blocks are at 0.8 and he's averaging 0.4 a game over the last 5 of both of those things. He's also shooting a bafflingly low 40% from the field, including 43% on twos. He's hitting under 32% on threes. His true shooting is 47%, and he's turning the ball over as well. So while he was rolling at a level that was unsustainably high, he's in a gigantic slump at the moment, and I do believe it's going to hold because his usage is way up. It's at 30% over this time frame. That's high. He's only a 27 guy on the season, but he can't get steals. He can't shoot. He's not really generating three-point attempts, and that was one of my concerns with him heading into the season. He's like the man just doesn't shoot enough threes, and as the percentages dropped, so have his attempts, which is interesting because his usage is up, but his three-point attempts are down. And that's a concern. They're not going in, so he's not taking them. So we've got to be a little bit worried. I think a little bit. Don't value him as a top 10 player. Don't value him as a top 15 player. I'm not even sure I'd value him as a top 20 player, but I know that he's way better than this. So in terms of, and again, I have mentioned this before, I'm never going to sit here and tell you this is a player to trade for or to trade away to get Jalen Williams. I think it leads to problems because it narrows your focus. It narrows your negotiations because then you go, well, this player's got the player that Josh said, so I'm only talking to him. It narrows everything down, right? And I'm not going to sit here and just tell you a specific player because also, if someone else is watching this show, they'll also know what you're talking about. They'll know that, well, you heard Josh say that, yeah? And they'll automatically dismiss it. To me, it's just an understanding of Jalen is struggling. I think he's back I think probably realistically a top 30, top 3 round sort of a player is where he fits end of season. Maybe he's a top 20 guy from here on out, but maybe like top 30. So you give someone you feel more confident that is not going to stick in that zone. So when we look at the sell highs, you see guys that are up at that number that are rolling that you would like. Well, I will give you a name this time. Lauri Markkanen. All right? I don't know if anyone would accept it. They probably wouldn't. But that's the sort of player. Someone who's at the top, who's pushing up, and that's a spoiler. He's a sell high later on. And don't use him specifically as an example because people say, you'll never do that. And that is totally fine. I understand that. But it's more the idea that he's pushing up, and I really have no faith that it sticks at that number or that level as we move forward. Yes? I think I think we're good with that. The next buy low. We're going to stick in the Western Conference, and we're going to go to Jaren Jackson Jr. Because at the moment, Jaren is slumping. He is 87th over the last 2 weeks in category leagues. How is that happening? What is going on with Jaren Jackson that is leading him to be as poorly ranked as that? He's under 36 fantasy points in that time as well. I think he's a third round player, maybe a top 30 guy. His scoring is fine, but after a really hot start to the season in terms of shooting numbers, it's not where it needs to be. It's just not where it needs to be. He is at 43% from the field. For the season, he's at 49. And last season, one of the big issues with Jaren was the shooting numbers. Sorry, I just think I got that number wrong in terms of the shooting percentage. I'll get that back up. Anyway, that's fine. He's at 43% shooting over this period of time and 47% on his twos with a true shooting of 53%. We'll talk about the shooting numbers because, again, he's at 50%. I was right. 49, I said. But he's really slumping. Largely for the reason that his twos are just way down. Last season, what did he shoot? 44%. All right? That was largely a factor of the usage being up. But let's be very clear about something with Jaren. His usage is basically the same. I know the idea is there was no Jar and no Bane last season, so he's forced to do more and take harder shots, and I think that's true. But his usage was 29 last season. It's 28.2 this season. But I just think that those numbers, those shooting numbers are going to come up. And, bro, can you block a shot? 0.4 blocks over the last 2 weeks. 0.4. 0.4. I'm going to get the total on that. You know what it is? 2. 2 blocks in 5 games. This is Jaren Jackson, the man that averaged 3 a game. Now, that was never going to be able to hold. I think we're all well aware of that. But he's at 1.6 for the season. He's at 1.5 over the last month. This is just a real down period for Jaren. So when we talk about him being the 87th ranked player, he's just shooting ridiculously badly and he can't block shots. So if you wanted to, again, a target there, anyone outside the top 50 would be a really good target, I think, to get Jaren Jackson for. Anyone that you don't have faith is a top 50 player, I would trade for Jaren Jackson. Because when we talk about this, look, there is no guarantee. Like, you can see on this number there where I say rank 30th, right? You can see that. But that doesn't mean that he's necessarily going to be the 30th player. It's my estimation. He might be 20th. He might be 40th. But I feel good that if you traded away someone who won't be a top 50 player, that you'll get a good result out of trading Jaren Jackson. That's what I think. The next player, we're going to stay in the Western Conference, and we have to talk about Goose. Because Anthony Edwards is struggling. He's playing poorly. I'm not someone who likes to get inside other men's heads and think about, are they stressed or worried, or they hate their teammates, or are they front office? I don't like to do that because I don't know what's going on in my head, let alone another man's head thousands of miles away, and then trying to work out the the intersectional relationships between players, coaches, agents, families. I don't know any of that. It's impossible to do when you just lead yourself down a garden path of bullshit. So I don't know about any of that. It doesn't look good in Minnesota. We know this, and there's constant talking about, like, we got to do this better, we got to do that, and it's clearly not good times. We know that. Is that impacting Ant? I don't know. All I know is that he's bad at the moment. And by bad, it's relatively bad compared to where he's been. He is 69th over the course of the season. Sorry, over the course of the last 2 weeks. He's at under 35 fantasy points. And for him, that's bad. He was going in the first round of nearly every draft. Nearly every. Some others he came at the top of the second round. I've actually adjusted my projections for him rest of season down to not be a top 30 player in category leagues. I think that's reasonable because, again, he has never shown that, really. He hasn't. So over the last 5 games, he's averaging 20 points, which is all well and good, but the man averaged 26 last season. He's at 25 this season. His 3-point volume, which started out the season red hot, has cooled, predictably. He's still taking a lot of threes, but not as many. He's at 10 attempts per game for the season. He's down to 7.8 now. He also can't hit any twos, 45% on twos. His true shooting's under 50. His free throws are at 77, and he's not taking any. So not taking any free throws is a real sign of lacking or reduced aggression. He's not hitting twos, so he's not confident in anything inside the arc. He's taking fewer threes, and his usage is slightly down as well. I don't believe that Anthony Edwards is a top 10 player or a top 15 guy, really. Obviously, you can see that by my projections, but I'm pretty confident he's better than being the 69th ranked player. I'd actually be okay giving up any sort of top 35 guy for him. Even though I've got him 34th, he does have plenty of room to get better than that and have strong sort of bursts of being top 15. But we have never seen him as a prolonged top 10 player. This is why this one as a buy low is hard, because someone who drafted him probably did believe that at one point. They were probably misguided in believing he was a top 10 player, but they did believe it. Now, it depends on the personality of the person who has Anthony Edwards in terms of being a buy low, because they might be that person who's I took you in the first round, I shouldn't have drafted you inside the top 50, I'm done with you never drafting again. That's the guy you target as a buy low. The guys that panicked about Wembanyama at pick 2 and Tyrese Halliburton and Fred VanVleet, and Van VanVleet's still bad, but like the guys that make those panic statements. because they're probably annoyed at what we're getting out of Ant at the moment, and I get why they would be. Now, there are people, you probably watching, some of you, who do say, Josh, you're so biased. The word's biased also. That's a real pet peeve of mine. Hype and bias. No, hyped. Biased. I don't know why we've just dropped the D or in those words, but that's okay. You say you're so biased. I think we need to get the understanding of what an opinion is versus what bias is. And my opinion on DeMar DeRozan is that he can be a really good one-on-one player, but he makes it impossible to build a good team around. And when you put him in spots that don't fit, Sacramento, it's going to be bad for a lot of different people. And it has been. I think DeMar DeRozan is an absolute W bloke. He seems fantastic as a guy. It's not his fault that this is his style. Well, I guess it is his fault, but it's not really his. This is how he plays. And when you put someone into the wrong position, in the wrong spot, it doesn't go well. But back to my biased call. If I have that opinion on DeRozan, that's not bias, it's an opinion. But it also goes to show you that I still believe that he's a significant buy low here. Even though I don't love his game, or I love his fit on the Kings, or I don't like his real life impact, I'm very much aware that he's way better than this. Very much aware. Because this is stink. This is just terrible. He's 119th over the last 2 weeks in category leagues. He's not even averaging 27 fantasy points. And given how much he sucked in the last one, I think there's a real possibility of a buy low here. Now, there are two things to look at, I think, with DeRozan as well. That, again, speculation. And I don't want to go too far into it, but these are things that have actually happened. DeMar DeRozan has missed time with a back soreness issue. I don't know if it's impacting him, but it happened that he missed time. He's also missed time, I think, multiple times this season for personal reasons. I believe it was due to the health of a family member. He's had to leave the team through little breaks, and he'd left it in the preseason as well due to the health of a family member. I have no idea whether that's impacting him. I have no idea the health status of that family member. But I know that multiple times this season he has left the team for personal reasons due to that. Plus his back issue. I don't know if it's impacting him. Got no idea. But it is a huge downturn. So what's actually downturning here? Well, everything. He's shooting 36% from the field. He's shooting 35% on twos. Mid-range legend DeMar DeRozan. His usage is at 20. He's averaging 3 assists. He hasn't blocked a single shot. He's at 14 points a game. All these things are terrible. And it's not like, well, yeah, of course, he's washed now. He's in Sacramento because we've actually seen him average. He's averaging 21 a game this season. 21 a game. Yet, over the last 5 games, he's down to 14. And over the last month, he's down to 19. That's obviously not good, right? It's all very much down. His shooting numbers are down. His 2-point numbers, again, where he cooks in the mid-range, he's not doing it. He can't hit them. His free throw attempts are down. His free throw percentage is fine. That's okay. He's not hitting threes. He's never going to do that. His assist numbers, which were pretty high last season. He's been over 5 the last 2 seasons. He's down, and that's probably not coming back. But even 3 is a low number. So we don't even have to look back to last season to see what DeRozan could be. We can just look to what he's done this season. So I don't think that he's a top 50 guy rest of season. And I know there are some of you, if you're on ESPN, you might have drafted him in the top 30 because that's where he was ranked. That was silly at the time. And I can go back and look at my own ranks, and there's going to be plenty of silly things from the preseason. But that was obviously silly at the time. But I think we're talking about a top 60 guy here rest of season. So make your judgments accordingly. Because all of that stuff, there's just no way it's going to remain that poor for DeMar DeRozan. I'll put this next guy here, and this is the last buy low we'll do, hesitantly. Because he has been on a buy low show before. And I don't know what's going on with Jarrett Allen. It's not really good at the moment, is it? Allen is the 115th ranked player over the last 2 weeks. He's at 27 fantasy points. I think he's a plus 30 fantasy point guy. I think he's a guy that's probably not top 50, but he's top 60. But what's happening here is it's dreadful. Let's rule out some of the things. Obviously, Evan Mobley is awesome and is better at center. But what we are also seeing, and one of the concerns I really did have with the Cavs this season was Kenny Atkinson and his minutes distribution. Because we've seen in the past that he will just not play these guys big minutes. And he is not doing that at all for Jarrett Allen, who's not even getting to 29 minutes a game. His minutes are way down. So that's going to impact everything, right? That we have to have that adjustment and get that out of our heads that he's going to be a 32-minute-a-night player because he won't be, which is what he averaged last season. He's at 29 this season. He's averaging 11 and 8 over the last 2 weeks. His shooting numbers, fine. 67 from the field, 68 from the field, 70 from the line. That's all fine. But, bro, he's blocked 1 shot in 5 games. He only averaged 0.8 last season. Evan Mobley is the rim protector, but he has blocked 1 shot in 5 games. He's blocked 3 shots in the last 13 games. That's obviously terrible. Now, if you want to extrapolate that back, he blocked 20 shots in the first 17 games. So what's actually changed there? The reality is probably somewhere in the middle, but that is just killing everything. Also, the fact that his minutes are down to under 27 a game over the last 5. Blowouts are part of it, but also that, old mate Evan Mobley is just better. So I do think it's a buy low, and I feel very confident that Jarrett Allen's not going to be a Tyler Hero level shot blocker. But I'm not like looking at him as a rock solid top 40 guy. I'm not looking at any of that. I am worried about the minutes, but this is like, it's not quite rock bottom, but it's pretty close. 26 a night, 0.2 blocks, 11 points, usage down. Like, this is almost as bad as it gets. And I hope it's able to improve. I think it will. But I wouldn't be looking at him, Jarrett Allen, as a top 50 player. We've got the sell highs to get to, and we will. But before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL playoffs are almost here, so it is not too late to get in on your regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. There are so many ways for you to get a W on FanDuel. You can bet for anytime touchdown scorer. You can bet for individual teams' points that they score, the spreads, the totals, the straight-up money lines, the props, the futures, who's going to win the Super Bowl. Who remembers Ace Ventura, Pet Detective? I'm sure you all do, right? Just phrases that stick in my head from a movie you watched 75 times growing up. But like the CEO of the Dolphins, and he's talking about capturing Snowflake, and this is a FanDuel ad, I know that. But like, I always get in my head when I say Super Bowl, and he's like comment of like, I don't give a goddamn about that fish. All I care about is winning the Super Bowl. And that is what you can bet on FanDuel. And that is a complete aside from what FanDuel offers. But who cares? Because you can win the Super Bowl. Anyway, go to FanDuel.com and join today. That is FanDuel.com for a chance at $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. Sell highs. Sell highs. All right, we're going to do 2 pairs of teammates in the sell highs section. Let's go to the headmaster, Jamal Murray. Yes, Murray missed the last game. Ankle soreness on a back-to-back, not that worried about it. He's always at risk, it seems, for injury. But at the moment, the man is cooking. He is the 15th ranked player over the last 2 weeks, Jamal Murray. And I think a lot of you wouldn't necessarily know that. Although, if somebody is on your fantasy team, well, you tend to have an idea that someone is putting up big numbers. What's happening? Why is this going on with him? Because he hasn't been awesome this season. We know this. But he's averaging 45 fantasy points over this last 2-week period. He is, for the season, someone who's been much better at times than I think you might remember. But over this last period, he is averaging 25 points a game. He's averaging 2.5 steals a game. His usage is up at 28%. 28% for Jamal Murray. And I think it has slid a little bit under the radar. It's not that Jokic has been out or anything like that. He's just been playing really, really well. And that's not been the case during the season. During the season, his usage is just 23. But we're starting to get back to normal Jamal Murray type stuff. He is averaging 6 assists during that time as well, which is the season number that hasn't dropped off. His free throws are about the same. He's just hitting a few more. But what is happening is he's just getting more shots. He's just taking more shots. He's at 39% from 3, so it's no gigantic outlier there. He is just taking more shots, and he's getting an absolute truckload of steals. Now, interestingly, he's averaged 1 steal a game for the last 2 seasons. He's at 1.6 this season. He's at 2.5 per game over the last 2 weeks. He's at 37 minutes in that time as well. So it's a hard one to pull off with Jamal Murray. Might leave that to somebody else. But you can get something back here. I think that a top 50 finish, top 40-ish range is about where he is rest of season. So, so this is sort of a different sell high based on the player. Would I as a general rule, if someone was rolling top 15 and I think they're top 50 or top 40 rest of season, I'd say, well, if they're top 15 play, give me a top 25 guy back and I'm happy to get that value. With Murray, I would just take another top 50 player because I have no certainty of his consistency. I have no certainty of his health or injury status. So I'd just be wanting to swap like for like. I wouldn't even be wanting to go up. I'd be saying, look, I think he's figured it out. Jamal's back. Forget Olympic Jamal. Look at these numbers. He's unbelievable. He's taking all the shots that in the world. Roll in and just do a like for like because I don't have any faith in that sticking or in his health, to be honest. So that's how I would approach that one. The next one is his teammate because Russell Westbrook is also on a real hot streak. And it's, again, Westbrook is doing this not because Murray was out. Yeah, he did it in the last game when Murray was out, but that has not been the case all the way through. Westbrook is just putting up big numbers. Now, for fantasy points leagues, he's been a top 100 guy all season. I think that he hasn't really been a top 100 category guy all season. I think he's on the borderline of being that for the rest of the year. But he's 52nd over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 36 fantasy points over that time as well. What's actually going on? Well, his minutes are just way up. Some of it, Christian Brown missed a game, Murray missed a game, but they've also just been closing with him. Sometimes over Brown, sometimes over Porter, sometimes over Gordon. 15 points a game in the last 5 for him, with 7 assists and 2.4 steals. But that's the thing, isn't it? The steals for Westbrook. And much like Murray, he averaged 1.1, 1.0, and 0.9 steals the last 3 years. He's at 1.7 this season. And steals are way up this season in the NBA. They tend to be up higher. They're higher at the start of the year, and they do cool off usually as the season goes on. But he's doing that. He's also blocking more shots. He's at 0.6 blocks a game, and I don't really think that holds necessarily. But the thing with Westbrook is he's at 68% on his twos. He's 53% from the field. And one thing you know about Russell Westbrook is that he's not going to do that, is he? He's just not going to be that level of shooter. For reference, he's shooting 21% from 3 over the same time period. So there's a risk of minutes. There's a risk of shooting percentage regression. And there's a risk that those steals get literally cut in half. So if I could get any top 100 guy back for Westbrook, if I could get any top 120 guy back for Westbrook, I think I would do it. While I do have him ranked around 101 rest of season, I don't have confidence in it. They could easily push him back to 21 minutes a night. Easily. They could stop benching Gordon, Brown, Porter, and put Westbrook back in a 20-minute role. That is possible. I don't think they will, but it is possible. But I think that this little run of form here, which does not coincide with Murray missing all that time, is worth looking into as a sell-high player. The next pair of teammates actually play in the same division as Russell Westbrook and Jamal Murray, and we're going to the Utah Jazzmen. We're finally getting good Lauri Markkanen. It's been a while. We've been waiting. And you know my thing on Lauri has been the same all season. I do not want to touch him in any head-to-head format because I do not think he plays in March or April. And then he started out with these back issues and he started playing terribly. Early on, I went, Jesus, we're not even going to get anything out of him here. But we are now. 34th over the last 2 weeks. Up to 35 fantasy points during that time as well. And now is the time to get any top 50 player back for Lauri Markkanen. I don't even have him projected as a top 50 guy rest of season per game. I think that what we're seeing at the moment from him is obviously awesome, but there are a few things that just stand out. This man has blocked. Look, I know this sounds stupid, but over the last 2 weeks, he's at 0.6 blocks per game. He's had 3 blocks, right? You go, wow, how, Josh? Well, why is that? That's not hard. The man's 7 foot. Yeah, fair enough. But in his other 18 games, he blocked 2 shots. Now, he is not that bad of a shot blocker usually. He blocked 26 all of last season. But that's like half a game. Less than half a game. So this is an absolute blocking hot streak from Lauri Markkanen. He's had, what did he have? 2 and 1 in 2 of the last 3 games. He's also taking 10 threes a game and hitting almost 4 of them. And while he is a great free throw shooter, that is 100% true, nobody is a 96% free throw guy. And that free throw percentage, double category modifier. Helps your free throw percentage for category leagues, helps your points as well. So when that is up at 96 versus 88, or a cool period at 84, you're just getting an extra 2 points per game added on. And that's all helping. So we're actually getting good Lauri Markkanen now. I would be very, very quick to bail here. Very quick. Any top 50 player back, give it to me. Honestly, a top 60 guy, give it to me. I just don't want to hold on to him. I mentioned this in the recap show yesterday, nor do I want to do it with his teammate Collin Sexton. Because he's been an absolute roller coaster all season. Early on in the draft process, I was like, I think they're going to play him 32 a night, and that's like a top 80 guy, so I'm okay with getting him there. And then I was tapped on the shoulder. It's like, they're not going to use Collin Sexton. They're not going to prioritize him or watch for lower minutes. And I went, okay, let's pull him back. But I wasn't hard enough on that. And I should have pulled him back further. And then we saw some terrible games where he was getting like outplayed by Johnny Juzang. And now we're getting good Collin Sexton. But, the big but is important here. Because I would imagine that a lot of people don't pay significant attention to the Jazz. They might just look at what Collin Sexton has done and say, well, he's averaging 18.6 points per game over this time frame. And you go, yeah, that's true. He's shooting 51%. He's at 82 from the line. These are all good numbers. 4 assists, 1.6 steals. That's unbelievable. It is. It's really good. But that's over a 5-game period, and over the last 3 games, he's at 24 a game. And you know why? You know why, because I've said it before, but if you haven't and you're tuning in for the first time, this is why. Jordan Clarkson was ejected in one of those games after 13 minutes. In the next game, Keyonte George didn't play. In the next game, Keyonte George didn't play. And I don't know how much the other managers in your league are tuned into Utah Jazz daily rotations. That's my job, to be tuned into rotations across the league. So Sexton has bumped his minutes way up, 35 minutes a game. Usage up to 28. And they're not numbers that's anywhere close to his season totals. Even 4.2 assists is well above what he's done. 1.6 steals, get out of here. This man has averaged, these are his last 4 years' steal numbers, including this year, starting with this year. 0.8, 0.8, 0.6, 0.9. He's at 1.6 over the last 5 games. All right? Outlier. Huge outlier. Not going to hold. He did that because he had 4 and 3 steals in back-to-back games. And you know what he had the 4 previous games to that? 0, 0, 0, and 0. We know what steals are. They're incredibly volatile. Incredibly. Year to year, game to game. But all of this turns Sexton into a very, very fast riser and makes him look better than he actually is. And I would take any top 100 player back in a trade for Collin Sexton. Because A, I don't think that these minutes hold. B, the steals don't hold. C, the assists don't hold. And D, is he even playing on this team? And if he goes to another team, he's not that good. So he's not going to be in a super, super large role. So yeah, this is a very, very easy sell to me. It's the Jazz. And there are a lot of factors that, again, aren't always publicized on a team like this that are leading to this production for Collin Sexton. The last one is another one of those ones where sometimes you can get biased by things, or you can understand what you see in a different light to reality. I know that sounds very vague, but the passport legend Jalen Duren is finally delivering something that might get somebody excited. I was down on Duren heading into this season, not anywhere near as down as I should have been, but my thing was, I don't think they're just going to play Isaiah Stewart 17 minutes a night. I don't think that's going to happen. I also know that Duren's a dreadful defender. So I don't know that we're expecting 31 a night from Duren, and obviously we haven't got it. He has been terrible defensively. His minutes have been way down. But Isaiah Stewart's hurt at the moment. Now, I don't know how long Isaiah Stewart is going to be out, but the longer that Stewart is out, the more that the Jalen Duren sell high is in play. But also remember, when doing sell highs, you can't usually pull it off if we get notification, hey, Isaiah Stewart's ready to return. Because then people go, well, I'm not doing that. I'm not making this move. But the thing that I like to highlight on sell highs and buy lows example, like it'd be easy for me to just say, yeah, Duren's a sell high because he's playing extra minutes because Isaiah Stewart's out. And that's true, I guess. He's playing 30 minutes a night here, which is largely because Stewart is out. But that's not all. It's when you get the double whammy that it becomes important. Because not only are his minutes up, and they are, he's the 61st ranked player averaging 28 fantasy points. Not only are his minutes up, but he's decided in that same time that he's just going to hit every shot. And you'll notice a lot of 80s in the percentages there. 80% from the field, 80% from the line, 80% on twos, a true shooting of 82%. That's a lot, man. And for as good as he might be, theoretically, no one's that good. It's not possible. He's at under 70% from the field for the season, and the man takes nothing apart from shots around the rim. His free throws are at 60.5% for the season. Last season, he hit his free throws fine, 79. But as a rookie, he was 61. So what's real? The 2 years at 61%? Or the 5-game sample here at 80 and the last season at 79? I actually don't know. But what I do know is that I don't feel confident in it either way. Meaning that when you're sitting at the peak, which is where he is now at 80% over the last 5 games or 4 games, well, I'm not going to feel good about that sticking. He's also just not going to be an 80% 2-point guy. It's just not going to happen. He's been at 65, 62, and 69 at the last 2 seasons. Nobody's an 80% guy. It's not a thing. So that's going to come down. He's blocking shots at a better rate, sure, and also over the last 4 games, that's actually down. He's only at half a block a game. And that's, again, looking more decidedly like some of the bad stuff from years past. So I look at this and go, those percentages, that's the easy fix. He's also weirdly at a steal a game. And he has never been close to that. 0.5, 0.5, 0.7 for 3 years. So that's going to fall. The shooting's going to fall. The free throws are probably going to fall. And the minutes might fall as well. But we're not basing a sell high exclusively on minutes and availability. So try to get in on it now. I think if you could get any top 100 or top 90 player, I tell you who I'd love to get back, a currently injured Jakob Poeltl. Now, you probably can't do that, obviously. Actually, Alex Sarr? Would I consider that? I shouldn't be throwing names out there just off the top of my head like that. And I think it's not a great idea necessarily to just look at ranks and go, well, this guy's ranked here. It's all about needs and wants and emotions and that as well. It's an emotional game. We're emotional people usually. So it's about trying to maneuver and finagle and figure out all that stuff. But when trading away big men as well, always try and reference straight 9-cat rankings. Terrible way to value a player, but in your discussions, use it because it bumps those guys up and makes them look way better than they are. Makes them look way better, and that might improve your return. That's a little sneaky tip as well. Don't use straight 9-cat rankings in a head-to-head category league to determine the value of a player. But if it's a big man that you're trying to trade away, use them because it'll make them look significantly better. That's when you use them because it just makes them look. It makes it look sillily good, and he's not. So there is our buy lows and sell highs. Still recap. The buy lows. Jalen Williams, Jaren Jackson, Anthony Edwards, DeMar DeRozan, Jarrett Allen. The sell highs. Jamal Murray, Russell Westbrook, Lauri Markkanen, Jalen Duren, Collin Sexton. What's the percentage of people's names in the NBA that start with J? Because out of the 10 names that I referenced there, I have got 5 players starting with J. Seems a lot, but oh well. It's okay. I start with J as well, and if you want to give me some sort of present starting with J, well, you can just jot down your thoughts in the comments below. But also have a jolly good time across Christmas, and just be, when you're thinking about what you've done, be justified, be judicious, and just be fair, but also be happy. Look back on what you've done good. And done good sounds horrible English because me no speak well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Have a very Merry Christmas. See ya.